Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to draft. Yes, welcome everyone to the ESPN VALORANT Power Ranking Show. I am your host, as always, Tyler Fionn Fire Erzberger, and this week we have a very special guest and a very special episode, as there was no major Ignition Series tournament this past weekend in either North America or Europe. We both have the LV Clash 2 in Europe coming up, and we have the Pop Flash tournament coming up this in North America. We are holding off on the rankings until next week when we both have a lot more data for the North American and European regions. But that doesn't mean we're taking a week off, because we have a very special episode today where me and my special guest, sports extraordinaire, legend of the Counter-Strike scene, now in the Valorant scene, Vansilli, is here to face off of me in the ultimate Valorant fantasy team draft, where me and Vansilli will go back and forth drafting our perfect Valorant teams from all the pros in either Europe and North American regions to see who you guys will decide who is the better GM, Vansilli. Who will win the best GM award?
This is so hyped that I'm already nervous. I think I got like in French it's called chair de poule. How do you call it? Goosebumps. I got the goosebumps right now. Oh. Hopefully that I'm going to be able to beat you in this draft pick and hopefully win GM of the year for Valorant. But you know what? I had a couple of picks, and then I looked on Twitter. Everybody that's like, "Oh, you guys should take this." It's like, holy crap! I don't have any of these people on my list now, so I'm doubting myself in this. But we'll see how it goes. But first off, thank you so much for having me, Fionn. It's an honor to be part of this special show.
I mean, if you are a Valorant fan, you should know who Vansilli is. But for the newcomers to the world of Vansilli, please tell them about yourself, my friend.
Yes, so I've been broadcasting video games since 2002 for an organization called the Team Sportscast Network, and we were basically the AM radio of what we used to call competitive games and competitive sports before it was actually labeled esports. So I was a shoutcaster, actually, for what we used to call it, doing Quake 3. I did Call of Duty 1 and a lot of Counter-Strike 1.6, and that's where I was mainly known for. Until Justin TV came out, and then later on became Twitch, everything blew up, and then everything blew up except me. So getting older, I mean, I started when I was 18 years old. By the time it was 2006, 2007, Justin TV came out, I was starting to get to a point where, what do I have to do in my life? It's not paying enough to what it was before then to what it is now. So to get some hiatus going on and off, back and forth in esports. But now that Valorant came out, perfect opportunity to come back, as I didn't get a chance to do much in CSGO. But Valorant has been nothing but also humble for me. So it's good to be back to be able to do this.
Yes, and we are very happy to have you in the Valorant space. But before we get to our ultimate Valorant team draft, we must get a little bit of housekeeping first. There are some news that came out today, and most especially from the T1 world, where Ska, as I mentioned last week on our various Valorant shows, has been benched, and he has announced that he will not be competing with T1 in the upcoming Pop Flash Ignition Series tournament, as he is working on his agent pool, getting better at the game. He will be practicing other teams, trying to get back into the T1 starting lineup, but it is now finally official. Vansilli, what's your thoughts just straight away? Ska benched. He was such a big signing when he was announced. He was kind of the completion of that T1 team. They gave him a very big contract, beating 100T in that contract negotiations to get Ska on the team. What is your thoughts on this? Ska is benched.
First off, it sucks really badly for Ska. I mean, I'm a huge Skadoodle fan from the CSGO days until today, too. Seeing him being able to go back from streaming into getting into T1 as the original opper for the team, I was hyped about it. And you kind of saw that the meta kind of changed with what kind of opper that we kind of want, right? You see it from Wardell, you see it from Huynh, you see it from everybody else that's currently opping now is actually opping as a, I was gonna say op as a TenZ, but op as a Jett. And we can't see that right now from Skadoodle, right? He's more of a patient, positional type of opper. He can't go for the aggressive type, which is why it kind of lacks a bit in that T1 setup that they kind of need. They brought in fresh fraggers with Crashies and with Food, but even for them as a whole, they haven't been producing T1 as a whole. They haven't been producing the results that they want. So they have to make some changes here and there. And unfortunately, even worse than that is, the screenshots that were leaked about the conversations that came out too. And, if you're a person in that team and you read this kind of stuff, you're super bummed out. So props to Skadoodle at this point that he still wants to practice hard so that he can come back in the same roster. So he still has that drive to want to compete. He still has a drive to want to be number one. So I commend nothing but positive vibes for Skadoodle, and I hope that it pays off. But the situation in itself here, Fionn, is kind of weird because saying that he's going to get sort of bench, he could work on his player pool, but he could also practice with other teams while not really practicing with T1 to get better. That's my question of what happens there. I mean, they have an academy team. Maybe put him into the academy team, develop him in there. I know it's a little bit different when you're looking at that type of lineup, but it's weird the way that they want to develop him as a player.
Yeah, it's a very awkward, weird situation. I believe in the T1 brass. I believe they will build a better team from this. But right now, from what I know, from my understanding from talking to a few people in the know around the T1 organization, it does not seem like they have signed their fifth player just yet. But they are in a tournament in Pop Flash in only 2 days' time. Mm-hmm. And from my understanding from people I've talked to, they've been trialing players out to be that stand-in for the fifth player. It does not seem like Fraud, who played for the team in the Gauntlet series, who actually played quite admirably in the Pittsburgh Knights Gauntlet series, maybe even their best performing member, surprisingly enough, and the Jet on the Operator, will not be playing for the team in Pop Flash. I've heard various names thrown out there. EU from their academy team has been brought up. A few academy team players have been brought up and being trialed for that fifth spot. That seems pretty obvious. You have an academy team, maybe promote one of them. I've heard Days, the famed CSGO player who also was on that iBuyPower team with Ska and AZK and Brax, as we've talked ad nauseum about, as those players have come through the door of Valorant. And then the one I've also heard that might be the most surprising is Jason R., the former FaZe captain who never played a single game for FaZe, who, from my understanding, never played a single scrim for FaZe, but was the FaZe captain for a month's time before being let go to start his own adventure in the world of Valorant. So, Days, maybe an academy player, Jason R. There's a few other players out there. There's Lasky, who's still on the market after being dropped by Homeless, who's now Dignitas. Who will be the fifth person? Who would you, Vansilli, if you could pick one player out there, a free agent, to stand in for T1 to kind of have that trial, to kind of show off not only for the T1 brass, but for the rest of the North American scene? Who do you want to see as the fifth player for T1 at Pop Flash?
At least immediately for Pop Flash, because it's 2 days, coming in 2 days, and Skadoodle is kind of like the opera for the team. We need to have an opera to kind of switch it up. So to not change the agent base or the strategy for T1 as a whole, I think you kind of need an operator. So I would probably go for Lasky, or I'd probably go for even Venerator at that point. I mean, that roster blew up as well for 100 Thieves. They kind of need that opera. He's also had some experience as an in-game leader too. So when it comes down to, hey, we have a whole new roster, how can we discuss this quickly? He might be able to discuss this with AZK so that they could actually mesh a little bit better and quicker for the upcoming weekend.
Yeah, Venerator is a choice I didn't even think about on the top of my head, but he is an in-game leader and he's good with the op. So if you're T1, why not reach out to him? I mean, mostly looking for a fifth member of the team. Venerated, I've talked highly about. He did even though 100 Thieves had a very poor FaZe Clan Invitational, he performed very, very well. So we will see. We will be tracking this. We will have more news on this, obviously, in our Thursday show at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, as Pop Flash begins on Wednesday. We will be talking about all the news and highlights from there. But Vansilli, it is now time for the meat and potatoes of the show. It's the centerpiece. It's the good stuff. It's time to get into it. The first ever super mega spectacular Valorant Ultimate Fantasy Draft. Me versus Vansilli. Here are the rules. Player pool we can choose from are all pro players, either the European or North American region. They're either signed by a professional team in one of those two regions, or they've been in the Initiation Series tournament. So that is our pool of players we are choosing from. How the draft will work is simply this. Our fine producer, Daniel Collette, will be flipping a coin in the back room, and whoever is chosen in the winner of the flipping the coin will have the decision of either drafting first or drafting second. Well, drafting first seems to be optimal choice. Drafting second means in the snake draft that we will be doing, they get the second and third pick, and it will go back 2-2-2 until the final person who picked first gets one pick to end the draft. So even though the number one pick seems like it's the position you want, you do get two picks right after that if you don't have that one player that you want to build your team around. So it's a tricky situation, Vansilli. You don't know if you want number 1 or number 2. So are you ready?
I am ready. I am ready. So I'm going to have to ask the chat to help me out too, because chat told me, or Fion told me, hey, if I actually win the first draft pick, I want it because I've built a team around that player.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out, should I go first so that hopefully I steal his team, his player, and then he just screws up his team? Or I want to know what you guys think.
I mean, I'm obviously taking Coach Smith first. I'm taking the undefeated coach. Like, honestly, Smith is my first pick. So, I mean, I'm just telling you my draft strategy right now. So if you want to take the number 1 pick, Smith is my guy. So, but yes, I think I'm ready. I think chat's ready. Vansilli's ready. Our fine producer, Daniel Collette, please flip that coin in our back room and please tell us who has won coin flip to start our ultimate fantasy draft. And I have lost. I have lost the back room coin flip, even though Daniel works for ESPN and I told him to give me the number 1 pick. I have been cheated. So Vansilli, you are on the clock. Do you want the first pick or will you delegate to myself?
So since I have the honor of being part of this show and being with you on this show and being part of such a big network as ESPN, I will let you have the first pick.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much. Now becomes the hard part. Really, there's so many players.
That means that if you win, there's always going to be like an asterisk to your win because I gave you that first pick.
I'm gonna dominate you so hard in this draft. I don't even need the asterisk. It's gonna be such a beatdown. I don't even need it. It's gonna be such a blow. They're gonna be like, oh, he could have had the 20th pick in this 2-person draft and still won. So, all right. So Tyler Phelan on fire, Erzberger of ESPN Esports is on the clock. I have the number 1 pick, and there's so many players in the universe of the North American European scene. You have the guys who don't miss. You guys have some you have some great entry players, got some great operator players, some good judge players. You got SMGs. You have guys who play the Odin. They go burr a lot. Like, so many great players, Vansilli. But when I'm thinking about who do I want to build my team around, and I want to build my team around someone who's young, who can steal rounds from me. I want someone who has that X factor. I want someone who I can put in the most tense situations when everything else is going wrong with the team, everyone else is failing, and our economy is in shambles. But I can trust in this one player to bring me a round win and just turn the tides, Vansilli. I'm not looking for the best operator player. I'm not looking for the best rifler. I'm not looking for the best entry. I'm not looking for the best looker. I'm looking for someone who can do it all, Vansilli. And that is why with the number 1 pick in the Ultimate Fantasy Valorant Draft, Tyler Phelan Fire Erzberger from ESPN Esports selects the magician of Valorant, Tens from Cloud9 is my first pick. He is my centerpiece. I want my team to be built around Tens. I don't have nothing much else to say. Just look at the stats. Look at his play itself. There's not one man in Valorant who has carried his team farther so far in the game. From his stats to his highlight reel plays, there's no mistaking that he is one of the most mechanically gifted players in Valorant. And I'm going to build a team around him that can push him from a finalist to a grand champion.
What are your thoughts on my 10th pick? That's actually a really, really good choice. I mean, for me, to be honest, when it comes down to who you want to pick as the first player, I wasn't surprised if we had probably like a Tens or a Wardell or a Mixwell as somebody that could play like an operator or judge, even put a Win in there from Gen G. And that's why I was like, you know what? I don't need to go for an operator pick first because you're always going to win with one of those 4, at least. So Tens is a great choice. But I think you still wasted your first spot.
No. Tens is a player. Tens is not just an operator player. He is a rifler. He is an entry. He can do every little thing in the game. I believe that obviously need a jet. Like, obviously any of our teams need a jet because just look at the pro scene right now in North America. You see teams literally kicking players off their roster just to get a jet player who can play the operator role. But I believe in Tens where his Viper did not look the best during the Bex Arena Invitational when they got blown out by Sentinels. But I do believe he is a player who is flexible and who can play more than just one thing. And I don't think economy is God to Tens. Where I think It doesn't matter if it's eco round. I don't care if it's a light buy round. I trust him with any gun in the game. He has terrorized every single team in North America with the Judge, the Operator, with a Vandal, with a Phantom, with every type of gun in the game. I trust Tens with it in his hands. So I trust in my ace man. He is my ace. He is the player I'm building around. Who are you building around, Vansilli?
And you know what? Even Tens, when he was sick at the FaZe Invitational, was still putting good numbers. So I'll give it to you. Good numbers. He was feeling a little bit off for like one of the matches, but the next day he was already popping off again. And you know what? He's half Canadian, half Vietnamese. That's two of the things that I carry in my DNA. So I have to commend you for that pick. I can't talk trash about that pick.
All right, you're on the clock, Vansilli. Who's your second pick?
Okay, so I could get the Jets out of the way. I could pick them last now because now I have the choice of like Wardell, Mixwell, Rob Wiz, CNED, Huynh. So we'll go with something else, right? So you talked about players that kind of do multiple roles and stuff like that too. I had two players came up to mind for me, and I had Shao from Fun Plus Phoenix or Sinatra at that point too.
Ooh.
Right. So now I think that's why I have a better I have a better hand because now I could pick a multi-role player and I could also have a second pick after that. So Shao is it's a hard battle between me, Shao and Sinatra, but in the end, I'm probably gonna have to go with Sinatra at this point, right? Because Sinatra, we all know him from Fame, Overwatch League, and I also watch his streams too. Whenever he's done playing with the Sentinels and done dominating the Valorant scene. And he's like, guys, guess what? It doesn't really matter what game I'm going to play. I'm always going to be on the top. So he's going to tell himself, I'm going to be on the top for Valorant in the next 2 years. And even if I feel like it, I'll get into the Call of Duty League. And mark my words, I'll be number one in that game too. So I love that from Sinatra. It kind of brings me that tweet that Sam talked about before too, about how accomplished he is in all of the games that he's played, from like Heroes of the Storm to Fortnite to Counter-Strike to StarCraft to even Valorant now today. So I like Sinatra in terms of being a young version of Sam that's going to be that person that's going to be able to do a lot. And when we talk about what roles Sinatra could do, well, we all know, you talked about it before, the Sova with the Odin does Burr here on Ascent, but he also plays a Raze on Bind. He also could play a Phoenix as well on other maps. So looking at that player in terms of building around a player, he could do so much, and I think he's going to be my first pick. What do you think?
That is a very good pick. Sinatra was definitely on my board. I thought maybe pairing of Tens as my duo, my 1-2 punch. And the thing I love was, if you had Sinatra and Tens, they'd be the most annoyingly aggressive duo in all. And that's the thing. And I would have liked that duo just because they are so annoying to play against. And I've heard a lot of pros tell me this, that Tens and Sinatra, especially Sinatra, are the most annoying people to play against in the game. Where Tens is very aggressive and he's amazingly skilled. Sinatra is, equally, he might not have the peak of mechanics of a Tens where it just comes from pure finger speed and just pure aim. Because I think honestly Tens might just be the best in all of Valorant currently when it just comes to pure reaction speed. But Sinatra's brain just works differently than every other pro, where he thinks outside the box. He brought the Odin to the meta. He brings so many different things to the meta, and he plays such a funky style where he'll pop his ult on Phoenix, rush through a teleporter, flash in, kill two, pop back out, win the round that way. And it's a thing of, you're never comfortable when you're playing against Sinatra. There's never a round where Sinatra's on the other side of the map and you're like, I can ignore that guy. I can just not think of what he's doing. I know what he's doing. He plays this position always at this spot at this time. He is always somewhere. Even when he's on Ascent, his kingdom, his map where he sits on B defense, where the little doggy is, Burr is with the Odin, Spray's down with the main B entrance. There's often times where he is switching it up, where he's on A, where he's mid, where you never know where the Odin's going to be. You never know what kind of gun he's going to have. So I really do like the Sinatra pick, where he has shown an adept skill of not being only great at one game, but 2 games. And 2 games who aren't, it's not Counter-Strike to Valorant. I think Overwatch to Valorant is, there's similarities, but there actually is a big gap of what you have to do to be great at both games. It's a very solid pick, and I think Sinatra is also someone who's matured a lot, and I think he could bring a bit of leadership and a big experience to some teams, where he is very young, He's also a world champion. He's won a world championship in Overwatch, and not many players in Valorant who've switched over are world champions. So, not a bad pick. Not as good as Tens. I would still roll around Tens first, but not a bad pick. And also because you picked second, you get to pick third as well, so you're on the clock for that as well.
That's right. And you know what? We'll let chat decide who has the better pick as soon as we get our full roster as well, right? But Sinatra, definitely a good one for me. And we'll go with the second one. So for me, when we looked about, okay, so what composition and stuff like that we usually have, you kind of look at your S tiers, the one that's always going to be picked. So you're looking at the Jet, you're looking at the Cypher. I'm going to keep those aside because we have plenty of choices in there because usually those people that play Jet or that play Cypher, they stick to those rules. So I want to go with an entry fragger. I want to get a duelist into my lineup right now. I think in terms of in-game leaders, we also have enough as well in terms of choices. So I'm going to go with the duelist and entry fragger. And my debate at this point was between GMD of Gen G or Drone of TSM. Now, I'm not talking about Drone now that he switched over as a Sova to play with the team. I'm talking about just before that when we actually needed a Wardell on a Jet to op so that we needed a Sova player. So Drone switched to that role. I'm talking about the Drone playing as the Phoenix. I think that's pretty awesome. So I was like, okay, GMD, he could play both roles. He could play a Phoenix and he could play a Raze on a lot of the maps, and he puts up numbers for the stats of those two. So GMD was like my honorable mention, but I'm going to have to go with Drone now that I was able to take Sinatra as he was able to switch over to Raze in certain maps too. So Drone is going to be my second pick at this point. I mean, no hands down, no questions asked. The best Phoenix in the world, in my opinion, because when you're looking at Europeans, they don't really play Phoenix, right? They play a lot of Raze. They play a lot of Reyna. Well, mainly Reyna with Scream these days. But if not, a lot of Raze going into those as a duelist. And it's just nice to see in North America, they have a different pace, a different style, more flashy, I guess, that point, no pun intended. So having Drone in that lineup for my team as my second entry fragger and always going to kill. Wow, you were talking about Tens and Sinatra? Man, imagine Drone and Sinatra now. I think I'm looking good.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick. I think the most underrated player in Valorant today is Drone. I think Drone gets overlooked a lot. He's obviously on a team with Wardell, Mr. Can't Miss. He is a 10K average streamer. He's also on a team with Sub-Rosa, who's also very well known. Coming from the Counter-Strike scene, those two players kind of seen usually as the heads of the TSM team, with the third head of that carry beast being Drone, but Drone for a long time was the most consistent player on the team, where he was the one getting things started with his Phoenix play and his First Bloods. My only thing is he has switched off of the Phoenix lately. I don't know if maybe his Phoenix skills aren't up to as par as it was a few months ago. Sub-Rosa is now the main Phoenix player, the main entry of the team, where we see a lot more Sova. With Drone, I think of Drone is he's an amazing Sova too, so I can't even say
that's exactly.
He went from the godly Phoenix to a slub of a Sova player. He's actually one of the best Sova players in the world too. So it's I can't really deny this choice.
And like I said, this is pre-Sub-Rosa becoming the in-game leader and then switching over as a Phoenix too, right? Because I think that if they actually didn't need Wardell on a Jet, and Wardell was able to stay as a Sova, if the meta of the operator or the meta of the agent talent pool right now for the game is not necessary to have a Jet on an op, then I'm sure we would have seen Drone stay as a Phoenix at that point, because when maps, for example, on Bind, where Phoenix is actually not picked that much, and then you actually use Raze instead, this guy still chooses Phoenix and could still frag with it. So that's why I kind of like to have the old school type of Drone with the Phoenix, with the multiple maps that we have, 4 maps, but still good enough in these 4 maps if you are Drone.
So that leaves me with the number 4 pick.
Yep.
And here's I thought Wardell would be taken already. And it's it's so tantalizing to take Wardell, pair him with 10. Oh, man. You also ignored Europe so far. So I feel like I need to pick a European, too. I don't want chat and the legions of European fans to come down on me being you're ignoring Europe. Europe is just as good. No, Europe's better than NA. Oh, man. There's a few people on I think Wardell would be a great pick here. I think him and Tens doesn't necessarily need to be the main operator player. You can put it on Wardell. I think they're both Jet players, obviously, but I don't feel like flexibility in terms of agent pool be be a stickler, you can always put Wardell on the Sova. He's a great Sova player.
And then just consistently put tens on a judge.
Yeah, or you give him a rifle, you give him a Vandal, you give him a Phantom. He's fine. He's good. He's a very good rifle player. You're going to keep the operator in Wardell's hands. He's a far better operator player than he is a rifler. But no, I'm going to stick to my plan. My second choice, who I was always going to pick alongside tens, is still on the board. So I'm going to take my pick. I'm going to take the only man, the only person, the only human who is perfect in all of the Valorant finals up to this point. I'm going to take the self-proclaimed king of the Valorant scene from G2 Esports. I'm going to take Artis. I'm going to take my main operator player alongside tens. Those two, the 1-2 punch is tens and Artis for me.
I do like that pick too, because for me, when I was trying to go towards what European team can I take as a team, and you're looking at Artis, and he's often and almost always playing as a Sova, and even using that agent on maps like Split, where we don't usually see a Sova on that map, he could still put up sick numbers. And he's consistent. He's great. He's the best interviewer post-game that I've ever seen so far in Valorant. I love the shit talk. I love how people are just able to bring so much out of Artis. I mean, I don't know if you saw a tweet maybe about, I think it was today.
Yeah, it was.
So Fraught was talking about, hey, EU won't have nothing against us. And then Artis is like, what is this guy having for breakfast, right? This guy's crazy to think that any team could actually get that at least more than 5 rounds against any team in any top 5 teams in Europe. I just love that man in terms of personality. And if you want a player on LAN in certain moments where you need that hype man and the person that's going to bring the team up if you're on a deficit, I think Artis is a great person to have at that point. He was actually one of my picks too, if I didn't have a choice to take Sinatra. But as you take Artis, I'm still happy that he's going to be on the board for you. And I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I like Artis a lot. Obviously, he has the confidence. I think him and tens would be scintillating to watch. I mean, we've already seen the kind of the combination happen. Like Jed, I mean, he plays with Mixball, who plays a very similar role to tens on the C9 roster. I think tens and Mixball are very close. I'm just picking tens because I've seen tens do so many crazy things by himself. His ACS is the only one in the world, I believe, with over 300 rounds recorded that has an average of over 300 ACS, which is bonkers. He's the only person who can walk into a game and get double aces, and it's not like the most crazy thing in the world. And he did that.
Yep.
He did that at the Pittsburgh Invitational, where he got literally 2 aces back to back, and it's just like, oh, it's just tens things. I would really like to see tens and Artis on the team, just because tens is very introverted. He's a very quiet kid. He said he's self-proclaimed a very quiet, mellow, laid-back human being, and now you bring in the big booming voice of Artis. I think that'd be a very fun 1-2 duo to build around. That is my 1-2 punch. I think they can either or can be the main operator at any times. I like that option with me, where I don't have to be beholden to one player needing the operator, where I can trust both players to rifle. I can trust both players to operate. I can have double op setups with the two of them. So I'm good. I like my Artis pick, and that means I am picking 5th in this draft. And now, man. All right. So Artis, I have 10. I'm gonna do it. There's a few players I want, and I need someone. I need a smoker. I need someone who can control the map. I have.
Crap, we're getting in there, eh? Okay. Hopefully you don't.
I have two really deadly players who can op, who can rifle. I need someone who can lead through rolling. I need someone who can play the Omen or the Brimstone. Maybe play flexible agent pool. There's Eccles, there's Patatek from G2. Player 1 is an amazing control player on the Brimstone.
Yep.
All right, I think I got it. So for my 3rd pick, the 5th overall pick in the draft, my in-game leader of Fion's Flames, or whatever this team shall be called, it's going to be tens, it's going to be Artis, and in the middle of the team, the heart and soul of the team, not only can play the smokers, but also can pick up that Phoenix if I need him to. I'm picking Sub Rosa. Let's come on, man. Sub Rosa is going to come to me. He has shown we don't know his, we don't have a laundry list of achievements as him as IGL, but so far so good. 2 IGLs, 2 events he's been IGL of. They've won both. Coach Smith also deserves a shout out as well. Since Coach Smith took over alongside Tailored plus Sub Rosa as IGL, they've done amazing. And I like the flexibility that Sub Rosa gives me. He's not only shown with his Phoenix play that he's an amazing entry and he can rifle with the best of them. Mm-hmm. He's also a player that if I need him to play the Brimstone, if I need him to play the Omen, to be that smoking, centerpiece, to set up the plays, to control the map for tens and artists, he can do that. And you know what? He'd also I'm just going to take all the operator. I need every player on my team. Every player on my team is going to have an operator. Because you know what? Valorant doesn't have enough utility to beat the operator. The operator is overpowered. The operator is heavily overpowered. Everyone knows the operator is just, I've wasted my flash. Now I'm dead. So you know what? I need everyone on my team to at least be able to wield the operator because that gun is broken and everyone knows it. And Sub Rosa can do it. So not only do I have a double op setup with my main man tens and the king, the highness himself, artist, but now I have Sub Rosa, where if I have enough money when I'm 13-0ing all these lame teams with my godly roster, I'm a triple op setup. Yes, so that is my team so far. I have my ace tens, I have my op king himself, the undefeated finalist artist, and my IGL / entry / controller / third main operator, Sub Rosa.
I must commend you here, Tyler, so far, because I can't stop smiling. I can't stop laughing. My jaw hurts. My cheeks are like numb right now already. I've never heard you so hyped before. And this is awesome.
It's a god team. It's a god team so far. Ken, Sub Rosa, artist, all those 3 personalities thrown into a team. How much fun would that be?
Yeah. No, for sure. I think so far, you have a lot, right? Come from artists with the recon dart, find some information, tens and Sub Rosa, let's go, let's entry frag, let's just run and gun. I love it. I think it's pretty good so far. So
we've seen that Sub Rosa can play Brimstone. So if I need him to play Brim, if I need him to play Omen, he can do that as well. He's a very adaptable, flexible player, and he's shown that so far. And when you have that glue player who's playing the controller role, who's playing the IGL role, you want that player to be very flexible. And I think Sub Rosa can be very flexible.
No, definitely. So I guess it's my turn to go for my 4th player, right? My 4th and 5th. Third and 4th. Third and 4th. Okay. So I also had the idea that, I need a smoke player. I need somebody that could actually do primary op or even secondary op, rather, at that point as a smoker. And I was thinking honorable mention at that point. Maybe Calypso from NV would have been a good one, too. We've seen him play quite well. But just like you, I need a European in my roster as well. So you took artists away from me. I was thinking about Shao before, but like I said, Sinatra was still on the board, so I had to go with Amen Sinatra. And now it's time to go with an in-game leader. And I think for me, an in-game leader as well as a smoke player, I have to go to Europe for that one. And you were mentioning Eccles before. Man, Eccles, please don't take him away from me. But then I was like, I have another one that I actually quite like as well. That would be a great in-game leader for my all-star roster. And that would be Angel or Ange 1 from Fun Plus Phoenix. So at that point, right? Ange 1, a god in CS 1.6, a god in CSGO, putting his way into Valorant as well. When they were party parrots, they were trying to go with a Belarusian, Russian / Ukrainian team. And they've been winning a lot of events that weren't an Ignition series or a lot of events that didn't have to face off against G2. But they were like one of those up-and-coming teams where alongside of Party Parrots and Fish 123, they were looking for a home and nobody was signing them. And we're like, what the hell is going to happen for this team? And I'm so happy that Angel was able to find a team with a couple of the players to move in together with Shao and the guys over in the Swedish team to finally form here the Fun Plus Phoenix. So, and think about it. We had a team that probably fully spoke Russian at the beginning when they first started playing Valorant, to now as them all together having to communicate in English better than I can so far, and still get second place in the last Ignition series over Team Liquid that had the all-star player and lineup with Scream. I got to commend the Liquid, right? Eccles at that point too. Like, my honorable mention for Eccles is because he had to change his calling style and change the way that the team was played when they wanted to give a chance for Scream to play like Scream, to just run around and frag, and he adapts around it. And we've seen some good results from him from that too. So I got to give that honorable mention for Liquid, for Eccles. And I guess by saying that, that's probably some fuel for you to pick Eccles as your in-game leader. But I'm super happy with Andy go with speaking English, leading a team in English as well, having to do call-outs in English or whatnot, and still get second place. He's the perfect guy to actually run a whole international team, such as Angel, Drone, and Sinatra so far.
Angel is a very good pick. Angel was on my board. I was thinking about him. He, the experience, obviously, playing with Hellraisers and CSGO for so long. He is that controller player. I picked Subrosa. Subrosa is nowhere near Angel when it comes to the years and years of high-level shot calling and in-game leading. I would definitely give Subrosa edge in terms of mechanics, in terms of just, I think, potential ceiling of carrying. But you are taking Angel because of that experience, right? And you are building a team where Sinatra and Drone are your star players, your star duelists, and you want someone to kind of teach them and learn and lead them to greater heights. And I do think Angel is a player that is often overlooked because he is from that CIS region, and so far CIS, Russia, Ukraine, Valorant hasn't blown like gangbusters there like some other regions, just because CS is God there. I mean, CS, Dota, that is Valve. That is a Valve land over. That is Valve Central over there. So, there's less hype around a lot of some of the Russian and CIS players. But I do think Angel, is a very good pick. He's shown that even in the limited time he is communicating English, FEX, a very green team, can look far more structured than a lot of other teams who've been playing for a lot longer. So Angel is a very solid pick. I think he is probably the most experienced in-game leader alongside Nitro you could have selected. But he's actually played in tournaments, so that makes him a better pick than Nitro people. So it's a pick I don't think a lot of people would see coming, but I think the more you think about it, the smarter it becomes. So I do like that pick.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about, at least for me, what's ideal for like a team composition or a roster is you need to have one or two veterans in there. You need to have two young fraggers in the team that are quote unquote new in the scene, not known in competition before, and they're like around the 18 to 21 age right now, where they could still evolve and get to their prime. So I think Sinatra and Drone are great examples of that, and I think T1 when they first started was a great example of that too, because when they brought in Food and Crashies, they kind of still had Brax that's a little bit older now, but that's getting to his prime too, and you have three on paper very good fraggers, and that's why I wanted to go with that type of mentality for the team that I had or that I have that I'm trying to build right now. So that brings on to my fourth
Sinatra, Drone. Who is number 4? Who's gonna? You need some sentinels. You need the anchor players. You need some lurkers. Maybe Sage main. Like, who's going to be your... I guess these are your two anchor players, right?
Listen, for me, a Sage main is like a meme now, right? For so you don't need a Sage in a composition anymore. And to have somebody that could still somewhat play a Sage, I do kind of get it, which is why, again, I kind of had like a Shao in there. I think he played Sage at some point, too, in the last Allied Esports. But I'm like, Sage, we don't need Sage anymore because more agents are going to come out, and then that's going to replace Sage already. And you already see that we need more or less of the heal and less of the orbs and more of the fragging power from the compositions that you see today. You definitely need that recon information from the Silva. You're probably going to have Killjoy at that point that's going to be added onto that as well. So some of the Cypher mains are probably going to switch over to a Killjoy main. Why I'm not too worried about the current pool of ciphers that we currently have available for us that won't perform well if they needed to switch over to a Killjoy. So I think that's why it's probably going to be like my last pick to go for a cipher main / Killjoy main / Sentinel main. So that's why I'm going to go with my Oppers. And it can't be a lineup without a G2 player in my lineup, of course. Since you already took Artis away from me, I have to go with Mixwell at that point, right? He needs no other introductions. He doesn't need a build-up. Everybody knows Mixwell. Everybody knows Mixwell from CSGO. Everybody knows Mixwell now in Valorant. He's been the main poster boy, the main poster child as well for G2, has always been and always had a good relationship in Optic Gaming with Hector. So he's one of those players that's getting to his prime, that's a little bit older right now in his gaming career, but he's not done yet. He has a lot more room to grow. So I think this is great to have Mixwell. And while you have a super veteran into Angel, you could also have somebody that's like in between in terms of that experience, the veterancy experience, and also be a good big brother / role model for example, the Sinatras and the Drone. I think looking at the way that things will go in the gaming house, I know that there's still some drama between Sentinels and TSM of like who's the best team, and there's like some trash talk going on between these two teams. But I think overall, when these guys will meet in person, they're still gonna hug, hold hands, and share some Coca-Cola Zero, right? So Mixwell at that point for me, you need the Opper, you need the Jet. He's my go-to.
Again, very solid pick. I think him, Tens, or I usually had to compare like the best Jet players. It's him, Tens, Wardell. I think him and Angel would work well together. You have 2 Europeans, 2 North Americans. So not as good as my, Phenom flame gods of thunder and lightning. We have the King Artist. You have Tens, the Ace, the Magician himself. We have Subrosa, the flexible man who can play any role and position, the agent if need be. And now it's my turn, number 4, the 4th pick. I am going to take a Cypher player here. I'm going to take someone. I could be an inker. I need a lurker. I need someone. I have a lot of very, very angsty players on my team. Not angsty in terms of personality, but they're very angsty. They don't like to settle down. Subrosa, Artist, Tens, they are all players who like to play aggressively at times. They can be a little bit too much on the go button. So I want someone who can also, pair well with a very aggressive team, but also be that, it's a 1v3 situation, a 1v2 situation because everyone else died and traded off because they're so dang aggressive. I need someone I can rely on and be that comfortable lurker. And I'm going to go with someone who's impressed me since his very first games during Twitch Rivals in the North America region. I'm going to go with Dapper with my number 4 pick, my Cypher player, my Anchor player, my lurker on this team. And I've just always been impressed by Dapper. The first time I saw him in Twitch Rivals, he was playing with a team, I think it was like Corey and Sinatra and a few other players.
Yep.
And I was like, he's really good. He's a really, really good player. And here's the thing. Before Dapper joined Sentinels, they were trash. They were awful. They were losing to amateur teams. They were getting smoked out of tournaments. It wasn't very fun to watch. And of course, the team improved a lot. And not only Dapper bringing them up, but when they brought Dapper to the team, it felt like he was the perfect final piece of that puzzle, where he did enhance and enable these very aggressive players like Sinatra, like Shazam, Bombs, so he could be aggressive and get those, be right up in the mix with the rest of the players along with Sick, who's the best battle stage in the world alongside DOP. But he's also someone where when the chips are down, Sinatra and Shazam both died in the first 2 seconds because they both just ran into, a double op shot, collateral, weren't even thinking of it because they're just, trying to grab kills. I think Dapper is the perfect anchor player for my team. He can play various styles. He doesn't always have to be ultra aggressive, but he can be with players like Tens and, Subrosa and Artist on my team. So I really like him in that role. Give me Dapper as my anchor.
That's a very good pick. Another young fragger, I think, for me, for Dapper as well. He has a great attitude. At first, when he first started gaming, I know he was a little bit tainted in terms of his attitude, but I think he's grown into a very good player, a very mature player as well. That is going to be a key component to a team no matter what. I mean, you look at his streams now, you look at when he's tweeting too, like the fun clips that he has from Fall Guys. He's just having fun now of where he is. And when you have somebody that's comfortable in his skin, that's happy where he is, and that he's surrounded by such a good roster currently with the Sentinels, and now with the roster that you have, I think it's just great that he's just going to continue to perform. You talk about an anchor player. I think it's the great type of player to have. As a Cypher main, he was on my list, but there was definitely another one for me that added a little bit more, but I'll get to that because I think you could still get another player here.
All right? So my 5th and final pick. This is my 5th and final pick. I am rounding out my roster, and I'm going to be totally transparent. I gotten every player I wanted. I wanted Tens to be my ace of the team. I wanted to build around Tens. I got Tens. I wanted Artis as my, primary / secondary operator, playing that Sova, playing alongside Tens, the 1-2 punch duo. Then I want Sabrosa, flexible. He can play the smokers. He can play that control style, but he can also entry. He can also up if the other two players are not feeling like it that day. And he can also in-game lead. He's very flexible. I wanted that middle piece who could be like glue of the team, but also very flexible. Sabrosa. And then I wanted my anchor player, my lurker, Dapper. So those are my 4 players. Those are my 4, and then my 5th. I wanted a 5th player who could play Sage, who also could play duels if need be. That player was Scream. Okay. I was gonna sit here and say, Scream is my 5th player to round out my roster. 2 European players, 3 NA players, Mr. Headshot Machine himself. But you know what, Vansilli? You know what? You didn't pick him. You didn't pick him. You know what? I'm not letting him be left on the board. Because you know what, Vansilli? I don't care if some of his agents have been, overlapped on my roster. You know what, Vansilli? Because there's one true fact here, and it's that he does not miss. And there is no way I'm letting this man not get selected in this fantasy draft. You know what? He used to play Sage. Before he played Jet, he was a Sage main. Okay. He was a Sage main playing operator. You know what? I believe enough in Artis and Tens and Sabrosa to be riflers that I could put the operator on my 5th pick. My main man. This was my entire goal from the entire beginning, to pair Tens up with this man. He doesn't miss, and I don't miss either. Come down, Wardeezy. Mr. Wardell is my 5th pick and my final pick in my draft, because how in the world I am not letting him be left on the board. This is a moment where, yes, there are other players on the board that make more sense fit. His main agency of plays are Sova and Jet, which are taken up by Artis, Tens. But you know what? When it comes to talent available, I'm going to take the best talent on the board. And if I need to finagle and find roles within the lineup to put him on, if he needs to play the Sage, he'll play the Sage. He's shown he's actually a very good Sage player early on in the beta. He was playing Sage throughout most of the closed beta until Jet became his main signature pick. Mm-hmm. So, and you know what? How glorious would it be? You have Tens, you have Wardell, you have Artis, you have Sabrosa. Who has the op? Who has the op? Most likely Wardell. It's most likely Wardell. It's going to be Wardell most likely. But I might throw out 2 ops. I might throw out 3 ops. Who knows? My team is very flexible, and I think it allows for me to have a player who primarily plays on that op. And while I was imagining 10 and Artis sharing that duty, I think both of those players are really, really good on the rifle, and both don't need to have that operator in their hands 24/7 to be a big factor. So please, give me Wardell. I think my lineup is I have Tens, I have Wardell, I have Artis, I have Dapper, and I have Sabrosa. Sabrosa, in-game leader. He will figure out what agent everyone should play on. It's going to be fine. Artis and Wardell aren't going to fight. They're going to share the operator just fine. Tens will have his judge. He doesn't need the operator. He'll be in corners, camping, killing people with the judge. Here's the thing. Yes, Scream might have been the better choice in terms of his agent pool. He's shown that he can play the Reyna, which no one else on my team can. He can play the Duelist. He can play the Sage more comfortably than Wardell, as he's shown. He can play the Breach, which is something that no one on my team has shown they can do at high enough level in a tournament yet. Scream probably is the more logical pick when it comes to fit, but I cannot let Wardell stay on the board, because I know you're not going to take him because you're picking an anchor player last.
That's
you already have an operator player, so I had to pick Wardell because his talent trumped fit for me in the last pick. I should have taken Scream, but I would not let Wardeezy down. I'm picking Wardell. He's on my team. Let's ride to a world championship, baby.
I agree with you, man. I think at that point, Wardell, just the reason for me, it was so tough between Wardell and Mixwell.
Yeah.
Right? Both of them finishing well, they're going to own so far as the operator Jet. And I just had to go with Mixwell because I needed a second European player in my roster before I have too many North Americans in my team. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Wardell. I've been a fan from him when he was actually playing with Bees Manicure or getting into the Ghost lineup back then with Steel. And I'm like, man, This guy, local Toronto, Canadian born and raised as well. There's nothing more that I want to see Canadian all-stars coming out of it, right? And now you have Tens, you have Wardell, you have Poised, you have so many Canadian players out there that are being part of such a big North American organization. I mean, look at Gen G. A whole North American roster, a whole Canadian roster is signed by an organization. So I love to see that. And I'm a huge fan of Wardell. And when it comes down to the series, I know I called it that, it was going to be a tough battle between Sentinels and T1. And you never know who's going to be that number one team between those two teams, because it's always going to kind of go back and forth in that debate. And everybody is building up that drama to that too. But after you've seen the FaZe Invitational and how intense it was into the winners finals, into the overtimes, into the grand finals, well, oh my God, it was probably one of the best series of VALORANT that we've seen so far since the game. And those guys, as a whole, as a roster for TSM, they never lost their cool, right? They were able to maintain compose, and they were able to come back from a deficit and bringing it to overtime to even win in overtime to Haven. I think Wardell is a great pick. I thought you were going to pick him at some point too, which is why I was like, okay, what's my plan B? And I guess I went with my plan B before actually going for Wardell myself. So props to you actually for saying, you know what? Exactly. You have to pick him. You didn't want to go for, let's go for the whole composition that's going to beat Vansilli. We have to go with who deserves the most respect to out of all the players that are available from North America and from Europe as pro players into our draft. So props to you for picking Wardell, and he's not left on the side.
Maybe he's a Killjoy main. Maybe he's trying to Killjoy. We don't know.
I doubt that.
Maybe he's a Killjoy main. We don't know. But
if anything, though, you could probably keep Wardell on that op. But if anybody else is a professional player, they're always going to be pro enough to try a different agent too. So you're going to have Wardell that never misses as a Jet, and then you can have somebody else like a Tens or an artist that's going to play like a
Tens
Killjoy.
Can play the Viper. He can play the controller world. I have a lot of flexibility in my roster, which allows Wardell to be Wardell. Get on that Jet. Give me those frags. Be that overconfident, arrogant beauty that you are. Take those 50-50 operator fights and keep mowing them down, buddy. Because the only player that we've seen so far in NA who has consistently beaten Wardell in those very cheeky, arrogant 50-50 duels is a man now on his team with Ted. Now there's no one who can regularly beat him in those 50-50 duels. So now Tens and Wardell coming together to create a world championship team on the Fion Fire Gods of Thunder and Lightning. Very happy with my squad. But Vansilli, you still have one spot left. Give us your final player to round up your roster.
I'm going to have one more player, an anchor player, a sentinel player that's going to complete my lineup, my roster, and that's probably going to destroy yours. And it's a player that's going to come out of left field, actually. I don't think a lot of people probably would have thought that I was going to pick this player, but I know him from being an in-game leader with Complexity back in the day for CSGO. And whenever that kind of like blew up and it was kind of like trying to find ins and outs and still trying to figure out things within Complexity, he still never gave up and continued to stay in North America, play in CSGO. Now he got a chance to go into Valorant. Him together with Som has been doing a lot of stuff with them, thinking together how they could actually evolve as a team, right? It's not only one in-game leader now. You have one in-game leader maybe with Som, but you also have a type of person with him that could actually call mid-round or add a little bit more within the round too. And his calls is based on his lurk plays as well. So when you're looking at somebody that's good for anchoring into a site, but when you're actually looking at somebody that's good at lurking offensively as well as defensively, because even on defense, he can lurk around a lot. And somehow he always finds the nooks and cracks to slip through the defense, get a backstab, open things up, and then you see the whole strategy rotate over to center around him, or he's going to be the one that's going to cut rotations and meet up with the team and even have to be that clutch player from time to time as everybody else dies into the site. And that player for me is going to have to be Death from Dignitas. That is going to be my pick to summarize this whole roster. So now I have Death, Anchor, Lurker, sometimes an entry fragger, but definitely the type of lurker that's going to get those kills for the rotations. You have Mixwell as the opper, you have Sinatra and Drone as the fraggers, and then you have Angel as my in-game leader. I think this is sick. I think my lineup is sick, dude.
That's a good lineup. That's a good lineup. But let's go down Beyond's fiery gods of lightning and thunder and more lightning. We have our in-game leader, our captain, Sub Rosa, coming in being that variety. He can play the Phoenix. He can play the Entry. He can play the Smokers of Omen or Brimstone. He is our glue guy. He can play a bit of everything. We got our Entry, our First Blood King, the Magician of Valorant, Intends, the Ace. Alongside him with the 1-2 punch, we have the proclaimed King of Valorant, 12 for 12 in finals in the game, Artis. Alongside that, we have our anchor, our backman, our background guy. He's in the back waiting for those 1v3 clutches. It doesn't matter if it's 1v3, 1v5, 1v10. Dapper will come up in the clutch when we need him the most as our Sentinel anchor player. Finally, because he doesn't miss. He will never miss on my team because I was not going to miss him on my team. Wardell coming in to create the most crazy team possible where if he needs to play the Sage, we'll put him on the Sage. He can play an operator Sage. But there's so many variations of my team, I feel like we can make it fit. We have so many players who can play Duelist. We have a lot of players. And the thing is, Wardell's played Brimstone. Don't forget, he's played one professional game of Brimstone. Sure. So he can play the Smoker as well. There's a lot of flexibility of these players. Obviously, we're probably going to have Wardell as a primary operator player. But I think with my entry fraggers and my carries being Artis and Artis Intends duo with Sub Rosa also in the mix, it's a very aggressive team. It's very similar to the Sentinels makeup where all 5 can frag out, and we've seen what Dapper can do with those guys. So I really like my team. I really like yours too. It's we picked some really good teams here. European fans are going to be mad at us for not picking more European players, but
we got some in there. We got some in there.
I also think this thing of there's been a lot more data for these North American players. There's been a lot better formatted tournaments that we've been able to watch with North American players than Europe. So it's just easier to pick NA players.
No, I do agree at that point too. And like I said, I had a lot of honorable mentions when I looked at European players, right?
Yeah, Zaipan, we missed Zaipan.
Exactly.
Like, might be right there of 10s, the best entry player in North America. Or not
Great race player. Definitely.
Great race player. Maybe I would say probably the best race player in Valorant today. We missed Corey. Corey's also an amazing entry player. Shazam. Obviously, Genji, Command, and
we can only pick 5.
Yeah, no, we can only pick 5. There's so many great players that, I had to pick Wardell from the final pick because it's like, he's a first-round talent. There's no way I could have left Wardell off the board. And at the end of the day, it's the thing of, sure, Tens, Artis, and Wardell, that's a lot of people who want the operator. That's a lot of people who want to be the ace of the team. But there's
no ban yet. There's no ban yet in the maximum number of operators you can have in a team. So if these guys are just prolific operators, and they could
never
just
lose it.
Exactly.
Never lose it.
They'll have 3-man setups, 4-man setups of ops on defense. It's just impossible to penetrate.
Yeah. And with how Tens plays for the operator on attack, it plays like a rifle. Like you can play 2 ops on offense with Tens in live. Like I like my team in terms of flexibility. I think your team might be a bit more structured, obviously because you didn't just take another opper if your last pick who's overlapping with some of your other star players. I think mine has a bit more firepower, but I do think yours has more structure. So it really would come down to, is it the raw power and talent of the Fion Fire Gods of Thunder and Lightning and more Thunder and Lightning, or Vansilli's Vanguard of very very structured, very planned out team that I think would work together in a 5-man format.
Yeah, and my team name, if you had the Fire and Lightning of your name of Fion on Fire, I guess I'm gonna have to have a team name as well. And it's always been a team that I always wanted to, if I ever had the money to start off an organization, it's gonna kind of be a meme, because I'm actually going to use my last name, Nguyen, which is pronounced for the English people Win. So I would call my organization Win Gaming. So my slogan would be Win Gaming. Even if we even if we lose, we will always win. And I think that would be the perfect model for my organization. But although I don't think I'll never use that model because I just have a kick-ass team right now. And
it is a good team.
and when I was listening to you talk about justifying the roster you're going to have, I think you're just trying to find excuses to put validity in the roster that will not perform against mine.
I think I have more firepower. I have more firepower, and you'll never know.
100%. That I do agree. But
if you win the pistol round, here's the thing. If you got, I think it comes down to the pistol rounds. If your team wins pistol consistently against mine, I'm screwed because I'm never going to have the economy to get my team the operators needed to win. But if I can win those pistol rounds, if we can clutch up in the pistols, and if Dapper can clutch out some of those pistol rounds, as as our Cypher, who's usually the last one alive because the rest of my team is going to be barreling in as psychopaths look for kills, I think we can win because we will build that economy up. So it's a very, very difficult choice for you, the fans. After the show is over, go over to Twitter. It will be the Theon Fire, Thunder Gods of Lightning and Thunder and more Lightning versus Win Gaming of Vansilli. It is more structured lineup versus my overall team of fire-powered beasts. But Vansilli, the show has been amazing, but it's time for us to go. Where can people find you, my friend?
Man, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. I had so much fun on this show to be able to draft a team. You guys could all find me on Twitter at Vansilli, and that's pretty much where I'm going to tweet all my videos. I'm going to try to do as well on YouTube, where I try to break down some plays here and there, trying to do as much as I can, maybe once every 2 weeks or so, and if I have more time, I'll pump out more. But if not, I always try to interact with everybody there on Twitter. So love or hate, send it out, and I would love to have conversations with you guys, and I'm here to hopefully be able to promote the Valorant scene for everybody so we could all move forward and move positively in the scene. So the more the merrier, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
No, it was super fun to have you on. We will have you definitely on in future iterations of this show and our Thursday show, our weekly ESPN Valorant show, which we do every single Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. This week we will be talking about Pop Flash, the upcoming tournaments. Where is Ska going? Is Ska going to keep? Is he gonna work his way back into the T1 roster? Is he going to get benched for the new trial player who will be premiering at Pop Flash? Where is Dignitas's fifth player? We will be talking about all that and more on Thursday night with our weekly Valorant show. But alas, as we always do at the end of the show, chats. It does not matter if Vansilli drafts you 50th or if I draft you 3rd. In my heart of hearts, I will always number 1, and I will see you here next Monday night.